have settled into such a wonderful role in terms of not only representing us well in your district, but also representing the Democrats throughout the country and inviting those people that need a home in. And so, we could go on and on and on about all your accolades, but I think you being a hometown boy, the fact that you're in Pleasanton right now having dinner and advocate constantly for candidates that we want to see elected so that we see good Democrats serving, I want to thank you. We all want to thank you. And most importantly, I know your parents are proud, but we're also proud of you. So I will give you then the Honorable Eric Swalwell.
Well, thank you so much. And I see Julie as well from Pleasanton. I see Jeff from Pleasanton, many Pleasanton friends here. Thanks so much for having me and working around our like just craziness these days. And I
Can I
come to you.
insert one? Can I insert one other thing that I forgot to say that
Yeah,
I should?
yeah.
And that is that Jackie worked so hard to put this stuff together, and I meant right at the outset to thank her for putting this together and making this available to us. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I did want to get a shout out
That's
from
okay.
her. So thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, Jackie. Just if anyone wants to, by a show of hands, who here was at the convention? Did anyone go? Okay, Jeff was there. Okay. It was very exciting, and I was proud to represent you there. My wife and I were there um, like throughout the week, and just being on the floor with the California delegation and Harris. If anyone knows Harris, he's a Las Positas Chabot College school board member. He's my alternate on the Central Committee. And oh, I love Ellis's button of Gus. That's great. So Harris and I were there on the floor. I saw um, many just friends that we all have in the party there. And it's exciting because we're finally, I think, after 9 years of darkness, seeing not just an end to Trumpism, but kind of a light that takes us to a new path forward in Kamala Harris. And for me, and I think for you too, because we're all, of the East Bay, it's especially exciting to see a hometown leader ascend. I've known Kamala for 20 years. My first job was as a prosecutor in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. That's where her first job was. And as two young Democrats coming up in the Bay, we always bonded over that. And I've never seen her more confident than I saw her last week. And she's really just risen to the occasion in this very challenging time, right? Because it was a black swan summer. There were 3 black swan events that occurred. And historians say, sometimes it takes decades for history to happen, and sometimes history, decades of history can happen in days. And it felt like that defined the summer with, the debate and then the assassination attempt. And then, of course, the switching of the ticket. 3 events that were so unique to so many of us. And looking at like Joseph, who's on this Zoom right now. Joseph, that's the first time in your lifetime that an assassination attempt took place. It's the first time in your lifetime that the ticket was switched. And it's the first time in your lifetime that for any of us, to see a debate performance, like what we saw from the president. And so there were 3 black swan events, and she really, as I said, has risen to the occasion in the way that she's responded and charted a path forward. I just want to briefly say about President Biden. We owe an extraordinary debt of gratitude to President Biden, and talk about somebody whose career was defined by twin tragedies. When he was first elected to the Senate, he lost his wife and his daughter in a car accident, but still, found the fortitude to be a good father and a good senator, and served. And as he was leaving the vice presidency, he lost his son, Bo. And again, could have just rode off into the sunset and grieved with his family. And he was a good father and husband in that grief, but also recognized, especially after Charlottesville, that the country needed him. And as we all wondered, what would he do after that debate performance. And by the way, you never heard me say a single negative thing about Joe Biden during that time. And people had the right, I guess, to say what they wanted. But I just knew deep down that whatever Joe Biden decided, he was going to not do what was best for Joe Biden. In contrast to Donald Trump, he was going to do what was best for the country. And I was going to support him because I knew that was always, what he prioritized. And because he's always done what's best for the country, our kids will drive on roads that he built. They'll power their devices with chips that were manufactured in the United States, and they will feed their families with jobs that he created. And speaking of jobs that he created, approximately 15 million of them, he probably would tell you that will be his legacy as, a job creator president, Joe Jobs, as I've called him. And so, yes, we will remember Joe Biden for the 15 million jobs he's created. But I also believe we will remember him and be forever grateful to him for the one job that he left. And it's the job that he's left for Kamala Harris to finish for the country. And so we put Joe Biden on the Mount Rushmore of Democratic presidents with, of course, FDR and Harry Truman and John F. Kennedy and LBJ. And the one thing that those five, with Biden joining them, have in common is that all five of them did not fully serve terms that they were eligible to serve. Now, of course, health and history got the best of FDR and JFK, but LBJ and Truman, both for the good of the country, decided not to seek another term. And so really, really just grateful to President Biden. Now with Kamala Harris, again, having known her for 20 years, I know and that she's tough, she's real, most importantly, she's ready, but she also is fun. And we're all starting to experience that fun, and we're having a little bit of fun as she does and carries out this campaign. And one other observation that I'll make of her is that she's serious, but she doesn't take herself too seriously. And that's also refreshing for the times that we find ourselves in. One issue that I especially appreciate that she's focused on, and we live this every day in the East Bay, is housing. Recognizing that it is hard to hope for your life when you don't have a house. And so having a first-time homeowner $25,000, assistance program, that's going to put more people in homes. As you know, homes are, for most families, the greatest source of their wealth. And we also know that it's a pillar of the American dream. The idea that no matter who you are, where you're from, who you love, who you pray to, what the color of your skin is, that if you work hard, you should do better for yourself and dream bigger for your kids. That's the promise of America. And to try and put more, rooftops over people where they own a piece of it, that I think is a worthy goal, and one that certainly would help us here in the Bay Area. So 69 days to go. We've got a few more inflection points. Obviously, we have the debate on September 10, and we have the vice presidential debate coming up. Donald Trump continues to, threaten to dodge this debate. And until he shuffles onto the stage, I don't think we know whether he's going to show up or not. But I know she's going to show up, and I know that she's going to make the case that she's the future, he's the past, and he's not just, almost 80. And the guy wanted the race to be about age, and now it is. And he's got it. But his ideas are incredibly old and would take us backward. And we're not going back, which was a theme throughout the convention. On women and the rights over their body, we're not going back. Over kids and their right to be free from fear in their schools, we're not going back. And on healthcare and your right, to make sure that it's affordable, we're not going to go back to a repeal of Obamacare. And voting rights, which have been stripped away, we're not going back. And Donald Trump would take us backward in every single way. And he would be a president that is just me, mean, and a mean, all about himself, cruel in the way that he would benefit himself, and memed by the rest of the world in the clownish way that he would carry out his duties as president. So I'm fired up. I just want to briefly tell you what you can do. Tomorrow night, I'm hosting a free online event called Cooking with Kamala, Cooking for Kamala. As you know, she very famously loves to cook, and I asked her for her favorite recipe. She sent me a whole roasted chicken, and not an easy recipe. And again, that reflects her passion, for cooking. So we're gonna have fun with some of America's best known chefs. Our hosts are Padma Lakshmi and Joel McHale, and we'll be joined by Chef Jose Andres, Alice Waters of the East Bay, Giada, and so many more top chefs who are, putting as many chefs in the kitchen to cook up for a good cause. And then also, we are running through Madison on our team volunteer effort for phone banking for House races that are going to make a difference, because Kamala can only do as much as a House that can deliver her agenda. And making Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker has to be our priority. And that means protecting Josh Harder in the Central Valley, electing Adam Gray in the Central Valley, and of course, flipping a few seats in Southern California where we elect Will Rollins in Palm Springs, Derek Tran in Orange County, and George Whitesides in Northern LA County. So we've got seats across the state that our staff continue to work on, and you can be a part of efforts to help us do that. So I'm all in. I'm contractually optimistic about where we're going. I say contractually because I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So it's contractually on their behalf that I'm optimistic. But I'm optimistic because the times we find ourselves in and the leaders who are going to get us through and out of them. So thank you so much for just the work you continue to do. Find and see a partner in me in doing it. And I'll turn it back to you, Jackie, to facilitate any questions that you all may have.
Okay, and the way we're going to do this is we only have a few minutes. We are hard stop at 5:30, so we will stop at 5:30. And the first question, oh, what did I do with my screen? Was in the chat from Mary Perner. Mary, I'm sorry, I just messed up my screen. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question? It was regarding 2025. Oh, there we go.
Yes,
There.
sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Hey,
It's
Mary.
good to see you in a relaxing atmosphere. You probably earned it deeply. Anyway, have you read Project 2025, and how would you respond to it?
Yeah, I have, and I would start by calling it Trump's Project 2025. And that's how I define it and cast it anytime I speak publicly about it, because it's his project, it's his legacy, it's his people who are doing it. And because it's unpopular, look, he's a coward. He's a draft debate dodger, and he's going to dodge responsibility for this, but there's no dodging responsibility. His policies reflect what that agenda is. And this party, which ironically, by the way, says that they're pro-family and they attack anyone who makes a decision not to have a kid or, medically is unable to have a kid, they do nothing to suggest that they would help you if you wanted to have a kid. If you had a health issue in your pregnancy, they ban abortions. If you want to, try and have a kid and you're having issues doing that and you need IVF, they've banned that. If you have a kid and want that kid to be free from gun violence at their school, they've put the most dangerous weapons in the hands of the most dangerous people. If you want your kid, to be fed at school because perhaps you can't do that yourself, they're clowning on Tim Walz for providing free school lunches to everybody. So these are not people who are pro-family. They're pro-Donald Trump. They in every way are all about just consolidating power, among the most fringe and extreme voters in this country on behalf of Donald Trump. But I would always put Trump's name ahead of Project 2025. And you can tell that has been quite effective in defining them.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions, raise your virtual hand. While we're waiting on that, Kyoko Takayami posted in the chat, Livermore Indivisible is going to cover Project 2025 on September 15th. So if you'd like to have further discussion about that, join that link, click on that link and sign up. Other questions? I don't see anybody with their virtual hands. Ellis, I don't believe it. You don't have a question for Eric?
Okay.
Come on.
Well, we couldn't be prouder
Hey, Sharon. Hey,
to help
Alice.
you represent us in
Right.
Congress. And I've made up a bunch of buttons, as you might have gathered today. And we're opening up a UDC office. And I first met you in an apartment that you were living in off Emerald Green Park.
Yes.
And
I
you
think
were head of our UDC back then.
I think you were
That's right.
18 or something like that.
Yeah, no, he wasn't 18 then.
He was
I was 25.
Right,
25.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He
20 years
was an adult.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this has been an incredible trip. And you've given me the thrills of my life. Sitting in the grandstand behind you at Dublin High School
Right.
when you announced for president, and being at the convention in front of the podium when you addressed the California convention are things that Sharon and I will remember
And we still have the picture
forever.
when you announced for president. On my
So
phone.
thank you for all of that and for inspiring us and really igniting this community, you and Jerry McNerney. And you've turned it from a sleepy community into political activists. We just waited for somebody to look
On
you.
Thursday, but I can.
Mark, so you got.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ellis. And I think we have time for the two more folks that have their hands raised.
On a Zoom call.
And if you're unmuted, please make sure you're muted. Let me see, I can't find that.
Okay, I have a question.
Richard Stein, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I really think that there's a very, very good chance that Harris will win the popular vote. No question about that. But with voter suppression in the swing states, Trump could still pull that off. How are you guys dealing with voter suppression, which is real?
So Richard, publicly, I never talk about it. And the reason is intentional, which is I think the Republicans, to them, it's a twofer. If they can put in place policies or people that would suppress the vote, they could possibly suppress the vote. And two, if I talk about it, it has a secondary collateral effect of making people worry that their vote might not be counted. And so last thing I want is for, say a single mom who's picking up her kid from daycare on election day, and all she's heard is me and every other Democrat freaking out about whether the votes are going to be counted. And she's got maybe 30 minutes after she, gives her kid a bath and gets her kid fed, to go to the polling place and cast her vote. I don't want her to say, you know what, like, it's been a long day. It's not even going to be counted, so I'm not going to do that. Privately, or like not publicly, I continue to support the legal efforts to protect the vote. And I think this is where in 2020, you saw a real change in our approach from 2000, and the issues in Florida to 2020. I mean, even in 2004, there were issues in Ohio, on voter protection. We just were lousy at it. We didn't prioritize it. It's a priority. And Mark Elias is doing God's work in protecting the ballot box. And so I think we're in a much better position now. And I think the Harris campaign and the hundreds of lawyers that they have hired and dispatched across the country, they're taking it seriously. But I don't want you to think that it's, that we're not taking it seriously, and that's why we're not talking about it. I think we're just intentionally trying to not freak people out because that only plays into what I think they're trying to do.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And I believe we have time for one more question. I apologize, Mary, if you want to put your question in the chat, if he has time. Eric has another commitment coming up right after our call. So I'll open it up for the last question to Dr. Ronald Lawrence. And you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you, Eric. I want to
Hey, Doc.
Hi. You're looking good today. Like
Thank
the beer. goes away and it comes, and that's enjoyable. In any case, I want to personally thank you for your contribution to the Tri-Valley UDC at our barbecue. That was wonderful. As a master of ceremonies, I mentioned you at the podium. And also your having your people there, we mentioned them also. But it's very helpful for the candidates down the ticket. And it was a successful barbecue, and thanks in part to you. And also it's going to be a successful office and help a lot of people. And as usual, this is what you do. You bring us along with you. So thanks again.
Thank
So,
you.
No, thank you, Doc. I see one of those candidates that I've been supporting, Jean Josie, on here. But again, thank you all for being all in on this, and I look forward, to celebrating this hard work on hygiene on election night. I'm biased. You're biased. It's my hope that Kamala brings her election night to Oakland. I've been certainly advocating for that. I don't see why she has to do it in Wilmington, Delaware. That's, where the headquarters is for a good reason. But I think as I said, we see our way out of this Trump hell that we've all been living through. And I'll leave you with this. My kids, I go back and forth between, like, do I include them in my work or do I protect them? And every time you get threatened, you feel like you have to protect them more. But then you also feel like you're letting them win and dictate like how you raise your kids and expose your kids. But at the St. Patrick's Day parade that some of you were at, I had my son Nelson and my daughter Cricket with me. It was the first parade they actually had walked in with me. And every parade, as you know, we pass out rubber duckies that are themed to the parade. So at a Pleasanton Veterans Parade, we've got Veterans duckies. In a Danville July 4th parade, they're July 4th duckies. And in the Dublin St. Patrick's Day parade, they were St. Patrick's Day duckies. And as we were turning the corner from Dublin Boulevard to Village Parkway, my son went up to a little girl and gave her a ducky. And this man, who I think was her father standing behind her, said to my son, Nelson, he said, "We're for Trump." And my son looked at me and then he looked back at the man and the girl and he just blurted out, "Who's Trump?" And that to me is the opportunity that's before us, which is we've lived through this, and we will always, be traumatized by what we experience, and that's why we work so hard. But they don't have to. They don't have to have a living memory of who this person is, and so that's what motivates me every day, is to truly let them live the rest of their life saying, "Who's Trump?" So thank you all again. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you to the club.
Thank you, Congressman. And I wish we were saying who's Trump, but maybe someday we
Right.
will, our children.
The mouths of babes. Yep. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And that is the end of this special session. I want to thank everybody who joined. Look for that announcement of the Tri-Valley United Democratic Campaign headquarters. It's coming soon, and we will be working hard for our endorsed candidates of the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. Thank you, guys. With that, I'm going to end this session. Have a good evening.